Hey everybody, we've got a very interesting housing market update today. We're going to get into a couple other topics today as well, but let's talk about who's saying to be very cautious in the housing market. And someone very important in the housing market and in economics in general is saying there's going to be big declines in home prices here in the future. And referring to the image that you are looking at if you're watching this video, this house of cards, or this housing bubble, as some would call it, only needs one piece to be pulled out for the whole structure to come tumbling down. Now, the guessing game is when and how will the block be pulled out? And some people say if. There are people betting on this being propped up forever. So it's going to take ever increasing amounts of consumer debt, people borrowing money to continually be able to buy these prices, these homes that are going up in price or afford these prices. Sorry, I'm going on a little bit of a low sleep today. I think 4.5 hours. So I might get some words jumbled, but we're going to get into some articles here and show you who is saying what in the housing market. And there are people anxious, waiting on the sidelines. They're pumped. They're waiting for the housing market to correct. And a lot of people are also scared and getting FOMO and just buying a home and just bidding whatever price because they do not know what's going to happen with prices. So, a very important topic. Let's get into it. And this would be Robert Shiller. Yes, that Robert Shiller of the Case-Shiller Home Price Index. The Yale professor of economics says, quote, there's a chance that we will see big declines in coming years. Now, you would think someone as educated and well researched would know exactly when the market was going to turn. But here's the problem. You cannot predict a manipulated market. You can predict that it may go higher, but what if the manipulation changes? See, that's always been the struggle for probably all of us and people that are thinking about buying a home or holding off on buying a home. And he uses a very important word here, anxious. He says, quote, I think people are anxious about that at this point in history, unquote. So anxious is a word, fear is another word, fear of missing out. So like I said a few minutes ago, people are fearful that home prices are going to never come down. At some point, there's usually always a Jenga block that gets pulled out and brings this structure down. But this has been going on for so long, more and more people are starting to question, are we headed into never ending inflation when they can keep on loaning out money created at the push of a button, at the click of a mouse? When institutions have, it seems like, endless amounts of money to come in and buy homes, when the banks are propped up no matter what, when mortgage rates never rise. Yes, this fear of missing out mentality definitely creeps into a big part of the population. But we need to think about this. Why is someone like Robert Shiller, Yale professor of economics, using words like chance? There's a chance that we'll see big declines in the coming years. Of course, there's a chance. There's always a chance. But there's always a chance it could go higher too. It depends on the manipulation. And speaking of manipulation, we're going to tell you what Jerome Powell said here in a couple more minutes. We're going to talk about that. But first, let's go into the chart for months of supply of homes. It was just updated here recently. And we know that when supply starts creeping up, it could indicate that we're maybe approaching a more balanced market. Of course, anything could change. Mortgage rates could drop again and, really put the trend back down as far as months of supply. But let's take a look at the chart here. And this gives us a long-term chart. Now we see to the far right here, it has been creeping up in the past 6 or so months. And we saw another uptick here just recently. So we'll have to see how this plays out. Again, in a manipulated market, no one can tell you exactly when it's going to come down. There's been people out there predicting home prices coming down for years. This channel here, not one of them. My opinion is that the end game here for the manipulation is going to be hyperinflation. Could something happen to pull a Jenga block out from this market? Absolutely. And that's why you always have to account for some sort of event. Some people would call it a black swan event, something that jumps out of the woods here it causes everything to change. And remember, 2008, the lending got pulled back because of all the bad mortgages. Well, that's not happening this time. Now, what we are seeing, instead of more people being able to afford homes, we see more institutional investors coming in and outbidding everyone else. And there's actually endless amounts of money that can be pumped into an institution and allow them to buy as many homes as they want to. Okay, now I don't think they're going to make it that obvious where they start buying everything, but they're definitely buying more homes now than at any point in history. When you look back at the second quarter, institutional purchases broke a record. So we have all these forces pushing home prices upward, but yet supply is still rising as more and more people, not institutions, but people, get priced out of the market. Now let's take a look at a chart right here. We go to the far right here and we see since March 2020, we saw an even bigger rise in the steepness of home prices, even steeper now than at any point than even compared to the run-up of the 2008 housing bubble. And you see the National Home Price Index compared to the 20 City Composite Index, which is the Case-Shiller Home Price Index put out by Robert Shiller, the Yale economics professor that we were just speaking about. Now, speaking of rising prices and inflation, let's go to the CNBC article just came out here today. Fed Chair Powell calls inflation, quote, frustrating, and sees it running into next year. So if inflation is frustrating, why not fix it? Why not reverse it? How could you reverse it? Well, you could raise mortgage rates or allow rates to rise. You could put some restrictions on the banks that they can no longer loan out money that they actually do not have. You could stop institutions from coming in and buying up tens of thousands of homes. You could stop propping up the entire banking system. Of course, there's a lot of things that they could do to reverse this, but yet he's out there saying it's frustrating. They have all the power to stop this from happening, but yet they're still calling it frustrating. And it's just really sad to me that most of the people really don't see through this, which essentially amounts to a Ponzi scheme. Okay, so what we have to do is we try to ride the bull. We know what their game is. There's people making money lots of different ways, even if you're not purchasing homes or flipping homes. There's housing ETFs that some people have made money on. There's stocks that move up with the housing market. A lot of people have made money on Home Depot and Lowe's, especially over the past couple of years with a big rise in the stock market and the demand for housing and housing upgrades and remodeling. But how much longer can people afford these high home prices when the cost of everything else, the cost of living, everywhere you look, it seems like, is going up? Let's talk about oil prices. Oil just topped $80 per barrel for the first time in 3 years. So yes, higher gas prices are on the way, just as we said would likely happen. And it's probably going to get worse. Even Bank of America is out there saying oil could go to $100 a barrel. What will the average gas price be then? Will it be $4 a gallon, $5 a gallon? Well, it's already beyond $4 here in California, so maybe it'll be $6 a gallon, $7 a gallon. Where does it stop? We shut down the pipelines, supply chain disruptions, rising costs of transport and shipping, labor shortages, you name it. Everything is pointing to a direction that's not good for the U.S. consumer. So continue to ride the bull and try to make it through this market. Maybe you're investing, maybe you're not. Either way, I'd like to hear from you down in comments. What do you think about all this? What Robert Shiller is saying and the housing market in general. Rising costs everywhere. Also, Powell, he's frustrated with inflation. Why doesn't he just allow mortgage rates to rise? You let me know. Thanks everybody for being here. Stay well, stay safe, keep stacking. Bye for now. Peace.